Hello, if you're new to my channel, my name is Tracy and I'm a clinical licensed psychotherapist in private practice. And my channel talks all about the psychology behind human behavior and why we do the things we do. A lot of it is just my perspective, but I also have had 15 years in the field of mental health and I just love the topic. So today's topic is adoption. And if you're adopted or if you know of somebody that was adopted, is it appropriate or okay for the adopted child to reach out to either find their birth parents or try to form some kind of a relationship with them? And I was adopted, so I have personal experience behind it. And I also have had a few, not too many, but a few clients who were adopted, and so this topic does come up with them. And I also know someone in my personal life that was adopted, and they have a story about that. So I think there are two schools of thought, or two camps, if you will. There's a lot of people in one camp who feel if two adoptive parents or any adoptive parent takes in a child, adopts them, raises them, takes care of them, hopefully, and then the child grows up into an adult and wants to either find their birth parents or have a relationship, a lot of the adoptive parents are upset. And there's a whole range of responses, from lashing out in anger to sort of like holding back their feelings, but you can tell that their feelings are hurt. And then there's the other school of thought where adoptive parents who, same scenario, taken a child maybe through foster care and eventually adopts them, supports that individual as they grow into adulthood to have some sort of a connection or maybe even a relationship with their birth parents. And I personally, because I was adopted, I feel it's important to try to find your roots and where you came from, and who is your birth parent, your birth parents or siblings if you have them. What were your parents like? It's the same DNA. So because when we grow up and we don't know who they are, I was fortunate to know who they are, and I'll share a little bit of the backstory. From day one, once you're removed from your biological home, your natural environment, and you're plucked away and put in essentially with strangers, there's a hole. I mean, we can't just shut that off, and it doesn't work like that. From day one, when you're in the womb, your mother's womb, there's you're sharing pretty much everything. You get your food and your nutrients, and there is a bond that starts to form just naturally and organically. And so it's an imprint. So when we're taken from that and put in a whole new environment, for me, I was age 2, I think. I was age 2 and I was removed, put in a foster home with a family with two parents there, foster parents, and they still have 2 biological children, right? All right, and that was super hard. Two totally different styles of parenting and environment. It's shocking to the system. For me, I was mute. I know now that was called selective mutism, which is an actual disorder in the DSM. But I was traumatized at the end of the day that I was in freeze mode. And then I don't want to share too much about my adoptive parents because I do want to respect their um, confidentiality, and I certainly don't want to put them in a negative light. But I didn't bond with them. I was too traumatized, number one, and it took a long time. Not until my 20s when I had my son. I think I was 21, 22 when I had him, where I started to have a little bit of a closer bond or a bond or any kind of decent relationship with my adoptive parents. So I have a theory, though, as to why some adoptive parents get offended or hurt. And this is some of the feedback that I've gotten from either clients over the years or even people in my personal life, where they get feedback from their adoptive parents where they'll flat out say, like, how could you want to have a relationship with your birth family? They gave you up. They didn't fight for you. They just gave you up and moved on. And again, it's about, we want to fill in the pieces of who we are and where we come from. It's not about, when the adoptive child grows up, it's not about, oh, we want to go back to the birth family and totally disregard and forget about the adoptive family. I don't actually know of anybody or any case where that's ever happened. I believe why can't we grow to love everybody? If you have two children and say they're polar opposites, one gives you a run for their money and is very, very difficult to raise them, and the other one is maybe easy to parent and raise, do you have more love for one than the other? Do you just discard the one that gives you a hard time? You wouldn't, I would hope, right? So why would I just forget about my birth parents and not be curious and have a desire naturally to want to know who they are? What are they all about? What happened? Why did you have to give me up? Or why was the child taken from you? What's in the history? Medical history? That's important. I grew up not knowing anything about my medical other than what I heard hearsay about my birth parents. Why can't we have room for everybody? Now, there are some situations, unfortunately, where the biological parent gave up the rights of that child and they do not wish to be contacted. And they can do a closed adoption, but when that child gets older, the 18 and up, they're legally have the right to reach out or try to find their birth parents. And there are many cases out there where they find the mom or the dad and they're blatantly told, like, don't contact me. I don't want a relationship. I don't want to talk to you, which is soul crushing. If you ask me, that wasn't quite my experience, but that's soul crushing. The wound's already there because you were removed to begin with. And then, even when you're old enough to not have to be parented, you still get shut down. I can't even imagine the pain of that. My heart breaks for those individuals. So if you are adopted and you are thinking of reaching out to your birth parents, you do have to consider that might be a possibility, and you need to be prepared and have the right supports in place, therapy, friends, or just wherever you can get appropriate support to help you with that. But there's also a lot, I think there's more, maybe, I haven't done the research exactly, but I know that there's a lot of bio parents who welcome the child that they gave up so many years ago back into their life. And that was my experience with reconnecting with my biological dad. And I did have a relationship with him when I was maybe 24 years old for about a year. But I chose to ultimately end that relationship. For me, I just couldn't, for whatever reason, get past that. It's not that he gave me up when I was a kid from the memories I did have with him before I was removed, or even once I was adopted, because there was a little period of time where they would have visitations with me from age 2 to 5 while I was in foster care. But I don't remember ever connecting with him per se, and so and there were other reasons that I just decided to not have a relationship with him. I I felt completely different about my birth mom, but she died when I was 34, so I'm 50 now. That's a long time ago. But I do have a lot of love for her, regardless if she gave me up. It's just a different. It was a different dynamic when she did have me. But to the adoptive parents who get upset or hurt, and this part here is just my theory. I can't prove it. Maybe somebody will do a research paper on this someday. I don't know. But I feel if kids who are adopted, if they grew to have a bond with their adoptive parents, and from early on, that I don't know if the adoptive parents would be as upset. Why do I say it? What so upset if their adoptive child reaches out to their birth parents and has a relationship with them as well? I believe deep down that I think that, I don't know if it kicks up jealousy because they didn't have a bond with the adoptive child as well as they would have wanted or expected. I think that there might be a little bit of fear involved that the adopted child, if they have a relationship with bio parents, that child will, adult child or whatever, would pull away and start to distance themselves from the adoptive parents. And because I can't imagine why. I mean, if I adopted a child, I would be okay once they got older if they wanted to seek out their birth parents. I don't know if it's just because I really have lived it and I understand the depths of the pain that goes with being adopted. I mean, don't get me wrong, obviously, well, not obviously, but I do feel grateful that I was adopted. Looking back now, I don't think I was in a position to stay with my bio parents and become as successful as I have become in my personal life. I think that it wouldn't have been good. And even though my journey with my adoptive family was very, very, very challenging, I somehow figured out that once I had my son in my early 20s, like, oh, I need to get like my shit together because I really don't want to traumatize my son and have him go through anything that I have gone through. And I wasn't a perfect mom for sure. It's parenting doesn't come with a handbook, and I didn't understand the psychology to the degree that I do now behind things until I started going to grad school, and I was in my 30s at that point. And at that point, my son was already 10 years old, at least 10, 12 years old. So I really with this video, and I don't know if anybody's ever going to watch it, but try, if you adopted a child, try to see from their perspective, like, why would they want to reach out to their bio parents? And I can tell you, it's really just about curiosity and knowledge of family or family of origin. You know, I try to explain it to people, and sometimes they just still don't get it. They I think they think we're ungrateful and it's mean to seek out birth parents, but I think it's actually quite natural. I would think it's odd if you were adopted and you didn't have a curiosity about where you've come from, or what was the reason that you were removed. It's just that. That's just what it is. It's really nothing more than that. And I feel bad that adoptive parents feel threatened by that, or that their feelings are hurt. It's really not about hurting anybody. So if you have any thoughts on this topic, or you were adopted or you're thinking about adopting a child, I totally welcome comments, and I'd love to have a little dialogue about this. I think that it's a topic that's not talked about a lot, so I hope that this video helps somebody out there. See you next time.